Okay, good evening, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Tabletop RPG, the OSR Tabletop RPG with DM Bloodworth and other guests. We're joined tonight with one of my players from my AD&D First Edition campaign, Mirador, and let's see what else we're doing here. I'm just doing some mixing around some things here. Let's see. Nope. I'm just looking for, there we go. I like that a little bit better. Okay, so I'm also monitoring on Facebook, not Facebook, YouTube at the same time to see sometimes comments will come in on one end and not the other, or there's a delay. Hello, Decado. You see, as I said, I saw it on YouTube first and then it popped up here. So, Decado, I saw your message earlier on. I forget which link it was on, or maybe it was in Discord. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to getting at least one Castles and Crusades game going during the week and around midday. Either Tuesday or Thursday, and like I said, around midday, like 12 to 3 or something along those lines. Because Tuesdays I don't work and my wife is at work. So it's actually an ideal time for me to run a game uninterrupted because basically no one's home. I'll see. I got to see especially after my daughter gets her car. That way I don't have to worry about picking her up from high school either. So definitely looking well. Maybe not this first Tuesday, but certainly the following Tuesday. It's definitely a possibility. So anyway, without further ado, let's see what else we have going on here. So if anybody would like to join in, I put the link up earlier. I will put the link up again here now. So if you want to jump in, I have room for up to, I believe, 10 people. And it's pretty much open mic. I mean, I was planning on talking a little bit about the channel news and just get some of that out of the way. A couple of upcoming videos I'll be working on. And then we can just discuss any kind of topic you want to bring in to the discussion as well. So let's see. I hope you rolled well. Car shopping. Yes, I did. I did roll well. Car shopping. I didn't play test my car shopping out at our D&D table. So that wasn't something that I had time to do. So instead I just relied on real life experiences to go and purchase a car. And let's see. We will go with greetings, Derek Man. Good to see you in. Again, tonight's going to be pretty much open mic. If you want to jump in and join in the actual live stream, here is the link. And so, first 8 or 9 people can jump in, and you will be joining us here on the screen and able to directly contribute to the conversation. Hello, Goldie. Good to see you as always. And so let me get a couple things out of the way. So first of all, Unscripted and Unchained RPG, my YouTube channel, has finally gotten past the fluctuation threshold of 2,200 subscribers. So I'm super appreciative to all of you that have been consistently coming in and leaving comments and possibly sharing and such, and overall just participating and particularly those that have come in, especially on older videos, which I absolutely love. When they come in on a video that was and comment on a video I did like a year and a half ago and said, hey, can you take a look at this? And it really does give me an opportunity to see what's still interesting viewers coming in, but also gives me an opportunity to go back and take a look at some of the games that, have kind of fallen off my radar. And one of those is Avalon Hill's Luftwaffe, and a commenter had come in, a subscriber had come in and said, can you get around to doing like a play test of this? So back in the early 80s, even though my gaming group was super just dedicated to tabletop role-playing games and a variety of them, but mostly Advanced Dungeons and Dragons First Edition, we did have a number of tabletop war games that we also played, and in many cases I played some of these solo, as a matter of fact. But Avalon Hill was like they were like the place to go for these kind of tabletop war games, at least for our group, and almost always or high quality stuff. I have Wizard's Quest, which is another awesome tabletop war game, and very similar to Risk, in a sense, but I have to bust that thing out and relearn that game and do something with that as well. But Luftwaffe was one of my favorite games to play, with my friend, my DM at the time, Adam. And that was a lot of our tabletop war games. Was Adam and I were really the history buffs, and so it was usually us playing these war games at the time. You had to have Avalon Hills Outdoors to play. I've heard about that game, but I haven't actually seen it. But I have heard about that, and that's something that I'll definitely check out. But hey, Wilderness Survival Guide and Dungeoneer Survival Guide came out around, the mid '80s too. So there was always that to rely on. But yeah, I have heard of Avalon Hills Outdoors, and definitely want to take a look at that. Greetings, Cal. How's it going? And again, as always, if anyone wants to jump in, I've put the link up at least once, a couple comments above, so you can just click on that link and you can jump right in. And unless you're a Russian porn bot, you'll have a chance to join in. And if not, any of the bots, I'll be on the lookout for bots. They tend to come in a little bit into the stream, so I will be on the lookout for that. Let's see, what else was I going to bring up? So as I said, Luftwaffe is coming up probably on Monday. I gotta see how my weekend is going to play out. Yes, porn bots. My next video for Castles and Crusades, I'm going to start taking a look at Monsters and Treasures. So this is the most recent printing of Monsters and Treasures. So it has the homage cover to AD&D First Edition's Monster Manual, the original Monster Manual, and so I'm really looking forward to going through this. I don't have the PDF for it, so the view will be from the drop down on the desktop, unfortunately. But what I'm going to focus on in that video is just taking a look at how Troll Lord Games approaches doing a monster manual / treasure. So they combine them up here in this book rather than in the Castle Keeper's Guide, which actually makes a little bit more sense, I think. But we'll see how it plays out, and I want to look at how they format it, how they present the information, and take a look at some of the art, because they do have quite a bit of art, and nice glossy pages and such. So really high quality stuff. So I want to definitely jump into that in the next couple of days. That will be the next video in the series of my Castles and Crusades coverage. Then once I'm done with Monsters and Treasures, I'll move on to the Castle Keeper's Guide. Along with the Tomb of the Unclean. Yeah, I know. I saw your post talking about the Tomb of the Unclean. So definitely got to take a look at that and see. I'm not sure if my dog is crying downstairs. Yeah, the rest of my family's out. So what's the best way for us to buy CNC books and materials? I would go direct to Troll Lord Games. So you just do trolllordgames.com and you can pick it up there. They have hardbacks, softbacks. They have PDFs. Not always for everything. They have bundles where you could buy both bundled up. If you are a veteran, they will give you a 50% discount. They also have a section on their site for for damage books. Sometimes they have some damage books, and you can get them there at a very significant discount as well. And then they have their general sales, which sometimes you can get these things in bundles or, like $10 for a hardcover book and such. So that I think would be your best place to go to. You can also get their stuff on Amazon as well, but if you're a veteran, you're going to get the better price going directly to Troll Lord Games. Bottom line, and and if you're looking to get something that might be slightly damaged, I'm not giving you something that's like nearly destroyed, and at a lower cost, then that's the other place to go to. So I would say go direct. Yeah, a combination of Troll Lord and Amazon. I picked up a few things from eBay, and they're not crazy prices on eBay either. $20, $30 for most of the hardcovers, usually in the high teens and 20s, though. I will let you know that. So they're not unreasonably priced, even on eBay. So yeah, you can get them a variety of places. Oh yeah, they come like double boxed sometimes. So it's like wow, it's like in a box inside a box and really, really well packaged. So Ducato, you're absolutely right. They pack these things they pack these things up really, really well. They're not going to come to you damaged, not because of the packaging. So that's definite. You are most welcome. Rational Ginger, almost missed the stream, but I have an excuse. Just started Tomb of Annihilation. Yeah, so always welcome to have you come on in, and good to see you. And Tomb of Annihilation, I'm gonna have to take a look at that, because I know the OGGM really loves that adventure as well, so I want to take a look at it. I mean, I was a big fan of Tomb of Horrors, and Tomb of Annihilation, from what I understand, is like the continuation of it, or just a very strong homage to it. So I've heard a lot of good things. Hey, you found your avatar, Mirador. Awesome. So yes, I will, and that is Tomb of Annihilation. I don't know exactly when it came out, but I know it came out prior to Tasha's. And I really think that WotC took a real downturn from Tasha's on forward. So, it's probably a pretty stand-up adventure. I think the only book that has gotten some praise, at least amongst the reviewers that I watch, the only book that had more praise than probably sales, but it should have had better sales, was Fizban's book on dragons. I've heard very good things about that, but that's the only one in about 5 or 6 releases that I've heard that actually, was well worth the information, the price for the information that you were getting. Yeah, so you could definitely fill me in on some of that, Dakota. Looking forward to hear it. It's one of the better WotC 5e adventures. Yeah, and I think it's probably because of when it was written. It was probably written when Mike Merles was still on at the helm. Hello, Lionel. Good to see you. Yes. Yeah, Tasha's really did change. It changed the nature of the game. Tasha's did exactly what Gary Gygax warned about in the first edition DMG. That there were certain elements of Dungeons and Dragons that Gary Gygax felt were essential to playing Dungeons and Dragons. And, he always felt that once you change those things, you're no longer playing D&D. And Tasha's comes along and makes virtually every one of those changes. All right. Now I don't know exactly when when Wizards of the Coast took away level limits and for demi-humans and such, but that was one of those essentials that Gary Gygax had mentioned. He came out and he said the purpose behind level limits for demi-humans was because of and class restrictions for that matter was because that it was a balancing mechanism. Otherwise they would have just been too powerful in comparison to human characters, and no one would want to play human characters. So that was one of the game balance issues that he had put in place, and these were vigorously play tested. Unlike today, they definitely play tested these things out before they ever made it to the hardbacks. And so that was one thing. The other thing was the racial attribute modifiers was another thing. There was a purpose behind each of those. So halflings got in general, halflings got a modifier, a plus modifier to their dexterity. Dwarves got a plus modifier to their their constitution, and so on and so forth. There was again another balancing mechanism made to make a meaningful choice when you were selecting your class and your race, and your and your builds, basically going beyond that. Weapons and armor selection and such. There were just a number of things, choices that were all meaningful choices. In first edition AD&D, even gender could play a role in the choice as well. If you rolled an 1890 strength for your fighter, the chances of you saying, all right, well, I'm gonna choose to play a female. Yes, you're going to lower that character's maximum strength down a little bit. However, if you were willing to do that, that means that you were willing to sacrifice the mechanics of the game, and instead do it for the purposes of role playing. And so those meaningful choices was also an element of role playing over game mechanics. All right. Just like you very rarely see someone playing a fighter and they're double specialized in a dagger. All right. You might have a perfectly reasonable role playing reason for doing that, but most most other players at your table are going, why the hell would you choose dagger as your double specialization? That makes no sense. You would never do it, all right, unless you're a role player. And that was the thing that I think Gary was really pushing for, was the concept of you're playing this game to role play a character in a heroic fantasy, and you're not min-maxing, and you're not, you're not looking for every possible advantage. You're looking for every reason to express that role-playing experience, and to be immersed in both your character and the world setting that you're playing in. And so it makes perfect sense for a role player that a fighter would double specialize in a dagger. It makes perfect sense for a player when they're rolling up a character, when they roll up their stats, then they might choose, well, I really wanted a fighter, but I'm not meeting the constitution limits of this. But if I play a dwarf fighter, now I will make that constitution requirement, or whatever it happens to be. And so they're still making a meaningful choice of the character race in this case, in order to play the character that they want. Again, role playing over gameplay. Let me get caught back up to some of these. Yes, I'm preparing to. I'm running out of shelf space behind myself, and I have a few more things coming in. So eventually, the Wizards of the Coast stuff, which is down here at the, which is down at the very bottom, that would be your left corner, down at the bottom left corner there. That's my Wizards of the Coast. That's 3E, 4E, and 5E, basically. And I just have the cores of each of them, and they will probably end up at my closet next step, since I have a whole stack of Castles and Crusades immediately behind me that have to go on one of these shelves, and probably an easier shelf for me to reach because I intend to play that. So yes, I'm going to be clearing out space as well. Ray says class, going back. Hey, Chuck, it's been a while. Good to see you. Ray says class. All right, so you're going back to OD&D and the earlier editions of D&D Basic, and that's fun too. But I never personally liked, I like playing Halfling Thieves, and so I was certainly glad to see that you could actually make a Halfling Thief in first edition AD&D, rather than playing the halfling race as class in OD&D. So I know there's not a huge difference in it, but there's still enough of a difference for me not to like it. And I always thought that Frank Metzner's Jack version of the thief was actually better anyway. And I believe he allowed for halflings to be thieves at that point. Yeah, I got the three, Cal. I got the three core rule books for like under $60. They were, when they first came out, they were on like a 60% sale on Amazon. And so I grabbed those three books plus the Sword Coast Legends. And the reason why I bought the Sword Coast Legends guide was because that's when the video game, the MMO, or whatever, however they describe that, was out as well. So that's the main reason why I bought that. I only, I will admit that I only played 5th edition maybe 6 times. And in the few cases where it was fun, the DMs in those games stripped away the things like short rests and death saves, and they just a lot of the rolling with advantage was not something that was done very often at all. And not once, I think only in one adventure that I was, that I was in, a player character was killed. And he was just killed because he was kind of separated from us, and he got killed by sharks. So he had the disadvantages of being in water and such. So it was really circumstantial, and it was just dumb luck. And he just got hit so many different times, um, that his character actually died. And it was like, wow, and that was with death saves in place. So it was, the only time that I remember in the 6 different games that I played. I didn't just play 6 sessions, but I played in 6 different games with 6 different DMs. And it was just, it always just seemed kind of boring to me. It's a I just found that there were too many different outs for your character to fall back on if they didn't initially hit their opponent with their primary skill. So I just never liked the system. Yes. Yeah. And I mean, it just makes sense that, and that's the other thing. The D&D was really built around, again, according to Gary Gygax, um, they're really built around the idea that your game worlds would be human centric. And again, that's on purpose because it makes the playing of the demi-human races just a little bit more fantastic. All right, makes them a little bit more interesting. And I certainly try to reflect that in in my current campaign. And I mean, Mirador is here, so he can attest to that as well. um, I think they've only seen one half orc in all the time that they were traveling, in the 50, going on 57 game sessions that we've had. They've encountered one half orc, and that's because half orcs are only like 1% of the population in the country that they're in. So um, half elves are only like 5%. And I think they've only encountered like one other half elf during all of their travels. So um, halflings are like 9%. So there's a little bit more of a chance of them encountering them. And I have planted them here and there throughout their travels. But for the most part, you know, um, probably over 70% of the of the characters that they're encountering, of the NPCs that they're encountering, are humans. And that's just the nature of the geographic information of where they're at. Yeah, yeah, they no longer exist. All half elves don't exist either. Yeah, I like. I will take a look and see. Um, I like, again. A Mirador can attest to this. I like throwing um, just weird curveballs at my players. So I've made I've made up monsters or taken monsters that are already in the monsters manual or monster manual too, and then altered them to be significantly different. To the point that it's like, well, wow, we didn't know, and it just becomes like again, a curveball, because I'm playing with very experienced players, and so sometimes you have to throw something at them that kind of throws them off a little bit. The first time I did that was when they were level 2, and they thought I threw a Lish at them, and instead it was a very downgraded but still very interesting Bone Golem. No, I'm not hearing you, Mirador. You might have to reboot. Yep. Okay. Let's see. Let's go back. All right. Let's see. Let's see. My son plays a half-orc ranger in my CNC campaign. In a town he lives out of 5,000, he's the only one. Yeah, and they should be rare. So that's absolutely, that's absolutely true. They should be rare. Okay. Yeah, yeah. 3 of my players are playing dwarves. Yeah, and that's the other thing. I mean, um, the player characters might actually be very reflective of the region that they're in as well. Um, Not by design, but I think, but if the players are actually asking ahead of time, well, where are we going to be functioning in? Then you know, experienced players might actually look to see, well, what makes sense for this particular region. I just put up in the thing the link if anybody wants to join in. I have a dilemma. You got me into Castles and Crusades, but I rediscovered old school Dragonlance at the same time. Well, you can take the world of Kryn and run Castles and Crusades in the world of Kryn. So that's one thing you can do. I do not anticipate that the new source book for D&D Fifth Edition for Dragonlance is going to be all that good. So I wouldn't anticipate. You can also get the old Dragonlance. So I will grab mine here. So you can get Dragonlance Adventures. All right, and this is written by Tracy Hickman and Margaret Weiss, Margaret Weiss, and here, let's see, who also played a significant role in the writing here. I want to probably say it's so continuity and story. The game system design is by Tracy Hickman. Editing is Mike Brualt and John Pickens. The design team is still the same design team. Yeah, so the writing of it, and the rules and such are all Tracy Hickman. So if you're going to go to the original author to do the game source, that's the best that you can do. Which is why I'm kind of saying that, like, I do not anticipate this newest Dragonlance 5e product that's supposed to come out, unless Tracy Hickman and Margaret Weiss are writing it, particularly Tracy Hickman being more of the game designer, then I don't anticipate that it's going to be very good at all. So get your hands on this if you want to, if you can. I don't think I paid a whole lot for this. Again, on eBay, probably $35 or so. Any hardcover from WotC is going to cost you $50 at least. So you probably get this for cheaper than you'll get that for. Yes, I mean, Dragonlance is Dungeons and Dragons. All right, so if you're adopting the CNC rule set, the CNC rule set is the natural successor from AT&T First Edition. So this is originally written, all right, under AT&T First Edition rules. All right, so it's going to be easily translatable. So I'll look here. So we have, let's see what dwarves. They have different dwarven races here. So we have Gully Dwarves. All right, you'll never have that in today's version of it. I mean, they're just monster stat blocks that you would have normally. So their strength is 44 plus 2. Their intelligence 2d4 plus 1. Their wisdom 2d4 plus 1. Their dexterity 4d4 plus 2. Their constitution 3d4. Their charisma 2d4 plus 1. All right. So their maximum strength is an 18. Intelligence is a 9. Wisdom is a 9. Dexterity is an 18. Constitution is a 12. And charisma is a 9. I mean, you're basically dealing with a dwarven subrace that is strong, dexterous, and somewhat tough, but not very smart and not very wise.
Can you hear me now?
Charismatic. Yeah, hear you clear, loud and clear.
Yeah, that the Dragonlance book is also available for print on demand. If you don't want to get the old copy as well.
Right. Yeah. You can get it on print on demand from Drive-Thru, but you're paying WotC for a product that they despise. So
that's true.
Yeah,
that's true.
Again, I mean, I could pop on. You're not going to pay more than $30 for it on eBay. All right, I'll almost guarantee it's not going to be more than $30.
Yeah.
And you'll probably pay like 20 on. You'll probably pay 20 for it on print on demand on Drive-Thru. So for an extra $10 to have the original, I'd grab the original. Yeah, I think that BX Beckme did the best job of handling the issue of why play a human. Yeah, I mean, it's bottom line. It's if you want to have the opportunity to go maximum level in any of the classes, there's where you had your flexibility in, and your variability. I tend to play, even though I said like Halfling Thief is my favorite to actually play, but I probably have played human characters more often than even Halfling Thief characters. So it's just a preference that I still lean towards playing humans a bit more on average than Halfling Thieves.
One of the things that's great about Castles and Crusades, though, is that they added the 3 prime for humans. So now you don't have to have those level limits and still have demi-humans have their abilities. That was a good way to take that level limit requirement out from the original game and still make humans desirable.
Yes, it still gives you greater flexibility as a human, so they don't lose that aspect. And then I like the fact that they set the attribute, your primary attribute, you're going to get 1 from your class, 1 from your race, and then, or 1 from your choice, I should say, and then 1 for your if you're a human, you get to choose 1. So I like that flexibility too. So everybody at least gets to choose at least 1, and then they get the 1 from their class, which again, it eliminates the pigeonholing, or the cookie cutter build that you sometimes have with other more restrictive systems, but it doesn't go to the other end of that spectrum by just saying, well, you're all a gray glob of goo, and you can have all of the racial traits of a dwarf, but be, a 6'5" human character, and when I look at what they're doing now or at least intending to do now, and I've tried to answer that survey twice already. It keeps on locking up at 57%, but having the uniform movement rate of 30 feet per round, I think is ridiculous. It's like a 3 foot tall halfling should not have exactly the same movement rate as a 7 foot tall, Goliath character. So that doesn't make any sense to me, how they would do that. It's just they're trying to make it where you could do whatever you want, and you have no actual true choices, meaningful choices to be made. No sacrifices need to be made in role playing a character. Yep. Let's see. Yes, anything from 1E to 3E should be easily converted to CNC. It should not be a problem at all. All right, let's see. One good thing after 5E Dragon launches is the Lord Soft cover. Listen, you could buy a picture. It's like buy a picture of them, and put it in a, slap it over the cover. Yes. Yeah, like I said, if the source book is not being written by the original authors, I have no expectation. Or if the original authors had no say in what's going into the source book, then I mean, look at the debacle they just had now with Spelljammer in not proofreading, what they're putting out there, and Wizards of the Coast is just too willing to put out garbage, just so that they could say that they're meeting some kind of a churn cycle, that that they're going to produce a hardcover every 3 months or something like that. I mean, they have no quality control whatsoever in what they're putting out. I mean, it's about 4 different releases now that each one gets declared by many, many, many commentators. And typically D&D commentators, these are D&D 5e fans that have come out, and each successive book that has come out in the last year and a half, each one, they keep on saying this is the worst that they've done, and each one tops the other one for being worse. Spelljammer, they just, one commentator just basically came out and straight up said, this is totally useless. You're better off just homebrewing your own darn rules and pull from Saltmarsh, and pull from it might have even been Tomb of Annihilation, had some systems in there for maybe for siege engines or something. I'm not quite sure. I have to. Oh no, it wasn't. It was Descent to Avernus. So he was saying pull from those 2 books, and then use the lore from the original, and you don't need to even buy this book. This book is totally useless. The other thing that he pointed out, and this is the, how to be a great game master, which I typically don't like his whole style, but the point is that he's usually a supporter of what 5e puts out. And the other thing he put out was that the Spelljammer book is 50% pictures. It's 50% art. He's like, every other every other page is art, and actually J. Scott Garibay said the same thing. Now he spoke of it, Garibay spoke of it as if that's a positive, that this book has so much art. But when you start thinking about that, that means that there's probably only about 80 pages of content, actual game mechanics and lore and content to the thing. Once you've seen a picture 3-4 times, you're not looking at the pictures anymore. It's like, not unless you have some secret adventure in the pictures, but for the most part, it's like, I have seen the picture already. Where's the freaking rules to actually do ship to ship combat? That's what's, and that's why I have no expectation that this new Dragonlance book is going to be worth a damn. I think it's going to be even less quality because they had burned their bridges with Tracy Hickman and Margaret Weiss. They had burned their bridges that they're not going to. It's just not going to be a good product. Okay. Hello, Larissa. Good to see you. I would start exploring old school Dragonlance. You have to start with the original novels. So if you read Chronicles and then Test of the Twins, and pretty much leave it at that, you will have such a strong foundation for taking some of those ideas and moving that into your actual game. You don't need to get all of the AD&D Dragonlance modules, maybe 1 or 2 of them, just to kind of get a sense of them. The best thing about those things was the 3D maps. Those were phenomenal. But if you just get a couple of them to see how the adventures kind of work out. Now they're kind of railroady adventures in that they're really designed to use the original cast of Dragonlance to run through, but you could definitely pull elements of that and incorporate that into your game as well. You can play old school Dragonlance even in your own setting, so you don't necessarily have to do it in Kryn. But yeah, there's a lot that you do. But read the original at least 6 novels first. That will really put you into, I think, the headspace and the feel for what Dragonlance is all about. Yes, Castles and Crusades 3. The 3 attributes for humans definitely does put in. The one thing with demi-humans level limits is that being so long-lived, it's hard to believe that an elf wouldn't surpass level 10. It's usually... I'm trying to think of the rules. They can dual class. They can pick up another class. They can actually go up to 3 classes. So unlike a human where a human plays both classes simultaneously, a demi-human can run through maximum level in one class.
No, it's the other way around.
Oh, it's the other way around? All right.
Yeah.
So they can multi-class. So if you wanted to... So wait, I'm mixing that. So dual class. So if they're dual classing, they're playing 2 different classes at once.
Right.
They're
going to go slower.
If they're going to go slower.
Yeah.
Yeah, I always flip those in my head. I think dual and multi-class. So humans can multi-class. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, because remember,
Angus is doing
Angus,
that for,
Angus
yeah.
he's gonna be switching to Thief soon.
Yeah. Once he hits 7, then he'll switch to Thief. and then he'll run that up to 7, and then it becomes a first level bard.
Which shouldn't take long to get to 7th level thief with the kind of stuff we're getting.
That's right. Yeah. You can't typecast my character. Well, yeah, well, the thing is that if you have a simple system, you can differentiate characters just by the gear that they carry, the equipment that they choose to use. Like I said, if I were playing a fighter, I mean, just for shits and giggles, I would have a fighter double specialize in, darts. It's like everybody would be like, why the hell would you, take darts? But if I wanted to really differentiate that character, that's one way I can do it, even in a very simple system, and just make it work based on the character's background and story and such. And that's what role playing is about, so you could very easily avoid typecasting by by making those choices around. I mean, even armor choice is something I've played plenty of fighters where it just chose to wear fur, leather type armor, that didn't give very much, protection, but allowed for at least my sense of, he's more of a scout. He's more of a, a woodsman kind of thing. And he's not going to be running around in plate mail, with that kind of a character background. Yeah, and that's the other thing too. I had mentioned on DM James's channel that it always made sense to me that the attribute bonus that elves would get would be to wisdom, because of how long-lived they are. You would think that over that time they would develop just a higher sense of wisdom. Just by throw out there was that's where I would see it go. Well, let's see. Spelljammer is getting crushed by 5e commentators. Oh, it's getting destroyed. That's what I mentioned. And, I don't know anyone who has given it a good review, except for one person, and a very small content creator at that. And that's just rose-colored glasses that, no matter what Wizards of the Coast puts out, it's going to be phenomenal. It's going to be earth-shattering. But all of the other commentators have destroyed it. I mean, and that includes like the Ginny D's and the, how to be a great game master, dungeon craft, nerd immersion. I mean, I always forget that other guy, Ben something, but what his channel, Questing Beast, not a single one of them have actually said that the game mechanics of Spelljammer 5th edition are worth a damn. Everyone trashes the game mechanics. Everyone says, how the hell do you make a space adventure supplement and there's no ship-to-ship combat? There's no rules. There's no real understanding of what it is to have range, modifiers for the ships. How do you have a ship that can only be repaired 1 point per, 1 point per day? So if your ship is nearly destroyed, it has taken 290 points of damage, hull damage. It's going to take you 290 days to repair that ship. Makes no sense. It's like, and then there's no, just like a character, you could have 1 hit point, 1 hull point left, and your ship is still completely 100% functioning until it goes to 0. Makes no sense at all. It's just, they're just lazy. No creativity, no thinking through to make it a true supplement. It's just, let's get it. Let's throw it out there so we could say we created Spelljammer, and there's nothing to it. So I don't see that. I don't see that it's going to be a big seller at all. I don't believe local game shops have sold out on it. That's a load of crap. And also it is on Amazon, and you can get it on Amazon for $44.96. All right. So it is on, that's basically the release now Amazon price of $44.96. Well, they can't, they do have a sensitivity reader, but obviously the person probably has like a no-show job, where it's like, well, they just say we have a sensitivity reader, but they actually don't, or they're just too lazy to actually, read it and see. I saw one comment someplace on Twitter, I think it was like, oh, they should do a recall on all of the print copies to bring it back. I read the original. There was nothing bad about it at all. I mean, it's silly nonsense to think that you have to take every fantasy race and equate it to some real life ethnic group on Earth, and so that you can make this argument. It's like getting back to it. Oh my gosh, space monkeys are blacks in the real world. It's like, how racist do you have to be to actually make that, to immediately jump to that conclusion? Oh my gosh, space monkeys, I think of black people. It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy to function that way. Stay the hell away from fantasy role-playing games or role-playing games in general, because you can't separate the real world from fantasy then, or science fiction, or it's just, you're not ready for this hobby. All right. So that should be the gatekeeping that takes place. If you find this offensive, don't play the game. Yes, exactly what I, mentioned. And yes, so Larissa, try to get your hands on this. I guarantee you'll be able to find it for probably under $30 on eBay. And I don't know where these people go. They go to these used bookstores and they find like whole big swaths of AD&D first edition stuff that looks like in mint condition for like $30 a pop. I'm like, where the hell do you find these things?
Yeah, not the ones like, around here. The ones that I have. Yeah, they mark them up to like $50-$60 for the.
Yeah, it's like books. Yeah, because they check eBay to see what they're going for.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? It's like but I think the one that I saw on Facebook was some store in like Arkansas. So maybe they just have no idea and they just putting, oh, this book has been sitting on my shelf for 20 years. I'm going to charge $15 just to get it off my shelf. Not realizing, I saw somebody that paid like $60 for the 144-page deities and demigods. I'm like, Jesus, that thing, like, I thought I got a steal for 120, and they're, you just find these places sometimes. It's like,
yeah, I got a copy of that, but I had to pay. I paid $100, but I also got like 6 first edition modules with it. So I've turned around, and then some of those modules I already had. So I turned around and flipped them. So probably after all, I probably paid about $40 to $60 for it. Yeah, because I was able to flip some of those modules that I already had. Yeah.
No, well, not for nothing, Ducato. He did say that $77 for a new book for the Dragonlance book is just insane. So I think he's finally catching on that. But that's by design. Again, I think that the Wizards of the Coast eventually wants to break away from the hardbacks, and they want to just give out digital. They're going to use this instance with Spelljammer as a rationale behind it. They're like, hey, you know what? we can't pull back physical copies. All right. But so having just completely digital format for Dungeons and Dragons in the future, we can now retcon any digital, because believe it or not, when you buy something and you have it in your library, I know that 99% of the time you're going to be able to argue, well, no, this is my purchase, it's my property, and you can't just remove it. But they may push for the argument that when it is on their server, that they can alter without notice any item that is sitting on their server, even though you purchased it and it's sitting in your library. The only way you avoid that is by making a copy of it and putting it into your own personal PDF library. It was something that I had done with the Kickstarter PDFs that I was getting from Modifiers for the Conan 2D20, and I got the original PDF for Conan the Wanderer, the one which they went back and they altered. They got rid of mystical and exotic and martial arts in a couple spots. They weren't even perfect with that, but I still have the original PDF of that. That they never did get to retcon because I had pulled it off my pledge manager and saved it separately, into my own PDF library.
I think I've talked to somebody before who purchased products through Drive-Thru-RPG PDFs that they later decided they were going to pull, and they didn't refund the money. And so if you didn't have a PDF copy downloaded to your current computer, you were just out of luck. You'd go back to re-download it later. Nope, sorry, that's been taken down. You can't have it anymore.
Yeah, I still had Venture Satanis's I still had his Good Samaritan, both on the library, the original version of it, and so it never got taken down. So I guess it's hit or miss, or they knew maybe not to do that because then they would get even more pushback. You know what I'm saying? It's like, what went on with Venture Satanis's whole thing just raised enough eyebrows, and it did, indirectly lead to Big Geek Emporium being created. All right, which is another outlet. I know it's tiny in comparison, but it is still another outlet that that One Bookshelf and Drive-Thru know exists, because people who have been publishing on Big Geek Emporium have been getting the notices that they're losing their exclusive rights on Drive-Thru-RPG, which means that Drive-Thru-RPG is monitoring what goes on to Big Geek Emporium, and they're nervous about it. If they weren't nervous about it, they wouldn't be monitoring it. And so they are nervous about it, and they are monitoring it, and they are altering exclusivity rights on Drive-Thru-RPG if you start publishing on Big Geek Emporium. Let's see. Hey, 28 millimeter. Good to see you. Yes, he is on a recent tear. And he and I have been going back and forth. Yes, just get all of the old DL stuff and cannibalize it. Absolutely. Hey, O'Neill, how's it going? And let's see, evening. Let's see if we get any other new faces. Yeah, they'll have those same 5 copies, or so, whatever it is, probably for the next 6 months. They won't move after that because the other thing that Wizards of the Coast does is that once they've released something, within a week or two, they completely ignore that it was released. They won't talk about it at all. They certainly will stop advertising for it, and they move on to the next thing that they're going to churn out of there. I've made this argument that we've seen this before, and I know a lot of people don't agree with me. Lorraine Williams, when she took over of TSR, she was not a gamer. She was not a game developer in any way. All she cared about was building up the value of the TSR trademark and logo. And they started churning out all of those splat books, and the quality no longer mattered. It was just bombard the marketplace so that everywhere where people looked, they saw D&D, and that created the perception that, hey, this is the top of the top of all tabletop role-playing games. All right, that D&D logo. And if that D&D logo is on something, it's going to have value without actually digging in and looking at the quality of the product that it was in. Up until the point that they were able to sell that logo, that trademark, all right, for a premium. All right. And all along that time, the most skilled creators that they had, both writers and artists, were slowly bailing out of TSR. All right. So your writers from the early days, like James Ward, and Douglas Niles, and so on and so forth. Later on, Monty Cook left. Like they just started bailing on it and going to other game companies or creating other game companies and such, and they just fled. All right, and because they had more talent than what TSR was requiring for them to do, is to just churn this stuff out. And this is the pattern that we're starting to see from Wizards of the Coast now. All right, is that they're just throwing out product like crazy so that they can grasp a hold of this mantle of we are the end all and be all of tabletop role-playing games. All right, and then when that 50th anniversary rolls around, I can see Hasbro saying, well, we're going to allow this license to be spread out. All right. They'll allow third-party people to start producing stuff, or they'll even sell off the trademark, the D&D label, all right, to a big company that's going to actually do something with it. All right. And, I could see them going along that lines. I know other people, like the OGGM has said he sees more that they'll potentially just restructure. All right. I think that they're going to take the game fully digital. All right. And I think that they're looking to build at least a semi-functioning multiplayer computer platform for playing the games. That's what it kind of looks like. I mean, that's what you're using the Unreal Engine for. You're not using an Unreal Engine to do tabletop play. You're doing an Unreal Engine to, it's not just for the graphics. They're looking for the gameplay that comes along with that as well.
So do you think that once they get their own electronic platform to sell, then they're going to pull all their rights from all the other digital platforms and say, nope, you can no longer play on those.
Oh, absolutely.
On ours.
Yep, absolutely. I think that they're going to make it exclusive to, and they've already announced it, right? They've already said we're still going to continue selling hardcovers, but the only place where you're going to get digital content that is usable on one D&D and D&D Beyond and the future VTT that they're developing is by buying it directly from Wizards of the Coast. So you would have no reason at all for buying from either your local gaming shop or even from Amazon, because Amazon doesn't give two shits about whether they can sell D&D product or not. All right, they just do not care. So they can pull their license. They'll say, "Listen, you can't sell our stuff," and Amazon won't even blink. All right, they won't. They will not care. It doesn't impact them at all. The local game shop is going to be really screwed because they don't have access to Magic the Gathering unless they carry stock of the 5e hardcovers.
Which will be dead stock. They won't sell any.
Well, they don't sell them now.
Yeah.
But it'll be even less of a chance of them selling any of it. All right. And if WotC stops producing hardbacks, where are they going? How are they getting anything? How are they going to get their access to Magic the Gathering? I mean, I don't see how that's going to work out. Wizards of the Coast knows that if they don't hang that that Magic the Gathering carrot over their faces, then they will sell other tabletop role-playing products. All right, that's the only reason why when you walk into a game shop, you will 99% of the time you either won't see other RPGs in the entire store, or you'll see them on opposite sides of the room. Yeah. All right, you won't see them in the same place, and I've spoken about this. When you go into a gas station, you will see Coke products on one side and Pepsi clear over on the other side. They're never side by side. Usually something else completely unrelated to the two will be slapped in the middle of it. All right, and that is by edict of both Coca-Cola and Pepsi-Cola, is that you can't sell their products next to each other. You go into restaurants, they're either one or the other. I have yet to find a restaurant that sells both.
Right.
They all have exclusive access. All right. And that's what many of these small gaming shops are faced with. You either sell 5e, or you either stock 5e, I should say. You either stock 5e, and they usually only get about 4 or 5 copies of it, and it sits there forever. All right. Because who's going to pay $50 for a hardback when you can go on Amazon, get it for $29.99, delivered for free 2 days later?
Right.
All right.
The only game store locally that I know of that does not carry, like you said, Dungeons and Dragons, so they can get the Magic the Gathering cards, is there is a Warhammer shop that all they sell is Warhammer products. But every other game store that's near where I live, they all have to kowtow to Wizards of the Coast, so that they can get Magic the Gathering cards, or they can't keep their doors open. Yeah.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. It's like that's how the only workaround I think that a local game shop could get away with is they say, "Screw you, we're carrying other RPGs and with the Magic the Gathering cards, so we won't have a direct line to the newest boxes. We'll buy the box set as a regular purchaser and then bust open the boxes and sell loosies." You know what I'm saying? It's like, and just sell them like secondhand market. That's what many comic book stores do. You go into a comic book store, they're not selling just 5e. They have other things in there. Plus, they have their comics, which is usually their bread and butter. It's the pull bags is where they get most of their money from.
Isn't that another thing with comic book stores? Is that in order to get certain books, you have to agree to buy certain other books that you know you'll never sell.
Right. and there's no return policy for it either. They might as well just take them and throw them in the garbage once they've gotten them. But yes, that's the other thing. But when you go into a comic book store, in many cases, if they are selling Magic the Gathering, they're selling the regular box sets. They're not selling the new exclusive box sets, and they're selling loose cards. All right, that's why they don't have to just stock. If they do have any role-playing games, you usually find the older edition stuff as well. You'll find the secondhand stuff in their shelves as well. That's just based on the two local comic book stores that are near me that both do basically the same thing. It's like you can get old stuff, but not anything, as far as Magic the Gathering, they're not getting those, those exclusive sets on the release day. Okay, let's see. Does Castles and Crusades have their own zine? I believe they do, right? Isn't that the Adventures? They have an Adventures book, like Amazing Adventures or something like that, it's called. I think they do have their own magazine, yes. That you get on TrollLordGames.com. You can make stuff for Siege. Yes, you can make stuff for using that system as well. You can make, I have all of the printed materials for how to make third-party stuff, how to submit stuff to Troll Lord Games for them to actually publish it for you. And it is very, very complicated. It really is. It's like you have to use the right kind of font. You're not blocking anything like a regular, like stat block. You have to write everything out and everything. It's got to be a certain format of it. It really is pretty complicated. To the point that I was like, wow. I mean, I've written stuff and put it on drive-through, and all I had to do was put the OGL on the back of it and write for use with or something along those lines and slap it right up there and no problem. Yep, that's absolutely right, Rationale Ginger. They care enough about it that they keep on pointing to it, and look at how they tried to deflect. They deflected this recent thing with Spelljammer by bringing up, for absolutely no reason, 1982 and the original appearance of of these, and it's slipping my mind, of these space monkeys. And the only reason why they did that was because they tried to make it sound like, oh, well, we unfortunately copied something from the past. No, that was not the description. That was in either Star Frontiers, which would have been 1982, and it was not the description of the Hadozi in the original Spelljammer. That was completely their own. Those two paragraphs belong to them, but they tried to deflect it and make it sound like it came from the original lore, and they did not do their due diligence to protect the current players from the biases and prejudices and racism of the past TSR creators. Total deflection, total lie, and that's why they really can't be trusted to do any of the older IPs that they're trying to put out there, i.e. Dragonlance. You can't trust them to put out a good product. It's going to be lazy. It's going to be watered down. It's going to be disingenuous. And then if they get called out upon anything about it, they're going to turn around and say, well, it's the original creators. That was the problem. It's the original content that was the problem, not anything that we did. It's just deplorable. They, don't give companies that hate you your money. That's what the OSR needs to keep on reminding ourselves of. Is that's why I never recommend going to drive-through and getting any old TSR content for as long as Wizards of the Coast has that disclaimer on a product. Don't buy it from them. I don't even care if you piratize it off the internet. I'd prefer you do that than buy it from Wizards of the Coast. Do not give them money for nothing. Either way, the original authors and the original artists are getting 0 cents from it, no matter how you're buying it there. Get it hardcover from eBay. You'll pay a little bit more. Even if you pay $10 more, you at least have the conscience of knowing that you bought it from someone who is not degrading the original authors, artists, and the original product. Yes, absolute bingo. Yes, definitely look for it, Larissa. If you find it, don't tell them you found it. It's like when I was going through my mother's basement, clearing out all their stuff, and she had stuff that was, obviously going back, 40, 50 years. And I found my original figures, at least 3 of them these are from like 82 or something. So, or maybe 80, maybe a little bit later. I think one of them has the date on it. But my Uni, Presto, and Hank. I wish I had them all. But yeah, it was nice to find them in there. And I know when when my other siblings were there, my younger brother was like, "Aren't those mine?" It was like, "No, they're not yours. They're mine." All the Transformer stuff was his. I guess not. Yeah. I guess the sensitivity nonsense is out of hand. Yes, they would totally destroy Call of Cthulhu. I mean, imagine the disclaimers they would put on, or even Conan. I mean, they wouldn't be able to produce anything for Conan. All right. Let's see. Yes, and Call of Cthulhu. I've heard nothing but positive about 7th edition Call of Cthulhu. So that's one of the game systems out there that has remained consistently popular and consistently praised for its game mechanics. So end system and such. So, and I'm sure that through editions 1 through 7, they've made changes, but it's remained consistently praised. Let's put it that way. So unlike D&D, and its editions where you've obviously had ebbs and flows, and I mean, very, very few people speak with any amount of praise for 4th edition. Although I have been seeing a few pop and say, well, if you made these certain changes, then it actually wasn't a very bad system. But its reputation was so tarnished, probably because it led to Pathfinder being created, more so than it truly being a really bad system. I think they just didn't like the the consequences of the system more so than the actual system itself. I was not engaged with tabletop role playing at that time, so I really, I wasn't living it as it was happening. Certainly not like in the 80s. I was living it while it was happening, and it's one of the reasons why, Dragonlance, I know Takato, I think, mentioned that Dragonlance is what brought him back to the hobby. I am a firm believer that Dragonlance saved TSR, saved Dungeons and Dragons from the Satanic Panic. All right, and not just because of the fact that its authors were, Christian, Mormon, and the characters and the themes and everything was, absolutely good versus evil. A lot of Christian connections that you can make within the storyline, but it was because it was seen as wholesome, and that is what TSR really needed at the time to push back against the hysteria behind the Satanic Panic. And so I think that that wave that TSR rode, on the back of Dragonlance is really what kept them afloat and what got them through that. Because Greyhawk wasn't enough of a setting to really convey that. Whereas Kryn was better at doing it, but particularly the novels were better at doing it, and getting people off of, that, this is all about satanic worship and evil and all this crap. And, I think that that's what moved the Satanic Panic kind of off the front burners of things and allowed Dungeons and Dragons and TSR to continue going forward. So anyway, again, just my own observation of the time and looking back on it too. I've always looked at Dragonlance being the savior of savior of TSR and Dungeons and Dragons, and possibly even a savior of the tabletop role-playing hobby in the mid to late 80s. Okay, let's see. Yes, absolutely. And they're more concerned about their trademark and logo. That's what they're really looking to push, is trademark and logo. And that's why they hired former Microsoft people, is they're looking to go fully digital. And they know that all they have to do is create the framework of a VTT, and because Wizards of the Coast has no decent history of producing good computer products. All right. I mean, even though Sword Coast Legends was a decent enough game and it was doing a lot of what they think that this new one is going to do, and I do have to double check and see if that was using the Unreal Engine for that. But if you're familiar with Sword Coast Legends, that's really what they're looking to produce here. All right. Just that they, so they already have some of that framework already done.
I'm back. I had to go for a second.
No problem. And if anybody else wants to jump in, I will put the link in there. So there is the link if you want to join in on the stream and jump into this conversation, or bring in your own topic that you want to talk about. That is OSR or tabletop role-playing topic, and we are going to move further on. Yes, it certainly did get infiltrated. All right, let's see what else we have. Well, they're starting to move towards making it digital. The other problem came from so Magic the Gathering was in a pretty bad place um, about 4 years ago, maybe 5 years ago now, um, with the cardstock quality and the cards bending and bowing as soon as you took them out of the pack, and that's because all of their printing was being done in China. So you can understand or really, start to get an idea of the quality of their printing and the quality of this cardstock was already on the decline. All right, and it was really, really bad about 4 or 5 years ago. I mean, if you go to the Quartering's website and you go way, way back, um, you'll see all of that going on, and them talking about it. Then you had COVID hit, and obviously the supply chain and everything got cut off. At that point, and we're still very much in the same situation. I mean, the shipping costs and delivery delays, and still the card stock is not going to change that dramatically from then to now anyway. I mean, card stock is basically card stock. um, it's not like they can just pick and choose which Chinese company they're going to have. It's whatever the Chinese government is going to allow them to print is what they're going to end up going to. And so I think that going to fully digital, um, they can probably believe that they can still make the same kind of money that they're making now, if not more so. That's the first thing. Second thing, like I said, with the Spelljammer, I'm sure that they can now rationalize and justify. We want digital control so that we can go back and retcon any mistake that is made, and we could just automatically force that change onto the content that you've already pre-purchased. Because if it's on our service, we can go right in there and change it so that when you try to log in, hey, you must update your current library, and that's how they fix and make changes to it. All right, and so it will be that kind of a thing. Maybe they'll have a subscription price where they say, hey, you'll get all updates for free based on your subscription based process. But if you don't subscribe, then you won't be able to open this unless you buy a la carte unlocks for it. They can lock your stuff down if it belongs on their server. So I see a lot of opportunities for them if they go full digital to better manage the content that is out there, and they can retroactively change anything that they wish.
And of course, if they're digital, then they don't care about the next pandemic that happens because everybody's going to be playing on their phone or from their computer at home. They don't care.
Absolutely, yeah, they don't care. It's like they're not only ending the local game shop, but they're really bringing to an end the need to sit in your friend's house to play the game. Because they're going to put most of the content that you have access to onto the virtual tabletop. So you're going to go to your friend's house and everybody's going to open up their laptop and they'll be playing on the virtual tabletop, and sitting in someone else's house to do it. Why would you do that? No, you're gonna sit at the comfort of your own home, like I do, like all of us in our group does, and we're gonna play. And that's just the wave of the future. Yes, they want to, for sure. They want to control that. fountain drinks at the Speedway. At Speedway, now owned by 7-Eleven, have in the same machine or side by side machines. That's interesting. Yeah, Warhammer has been losing. Well, Warhammer has their they have a virtual card game. I forget what it's called.
Is it
But
Gwent?
yeah, there's several. There's several. I played one of them. I wasn't playing Magic the Gathering though. I forget what it was called. Maybe it was a Warhammer one. I'm not sure. I forget what it was called now.
Oh no, the Gwent is the Witcher one. There's a Witcher.
Yeah, no, there's another one. Crap. I don't remember. I played it too. I played it for a while. It had these like mini troglodyte characters and things. Oh frick. I don't remember the name of it now. Yes, hello, Reziel. Nice to meet you. Nice to have you on. Yes, we are talking about OSR. We're also talking about the various things involving Wizards of the Coast and its impact on OSR sometimes, or why the OSR is a better alternative. Almost always, we're saying that, and basically, and then just talking about general gaming stuff as well. We're talking about the impact on game shops with some of the most recent stuff. So, yeah, if you have any topic you want to talk about, just throw it on out there. If you want to join in the chat directly, here is the link once again, everyone. And the link is out there. So if anybody else wants to jump in, you're welcome to jump in the link. And let's see. Yeah, I think they were having some trouble with those sanctioned tournaments, though. With Magic. I mean, they had a predator problem in their judges program going back a couple years ago. So I think that might be part of it too. We're holding them down and thrashing them. Yeah, we're using the new grappling rules to hold them down and thrash them. Yeah, something they hello, Rogue Scholar. If you're using a third-party tool to create a unique image, you have to disclaim that you're using a third-party tool to create that image. I guess it's to make it clear that you're not just taking somebody else's copyrighted image, altering it enough to slap it up there and then not give them credit. Since it's hard for them to detect that, I guess. So that's that's one of the things I guess they're trying to prevent from happening. But if you're using like a randomizing generator of, let's say, logos or something like that, I mean, to just put up there and say this is what I'm using, I mean, it's not that big of a deal. You say, all right, this is what I used to create the logo, this is what I used to create this image, and I don't see that as a big problem. I used to say, well, I got this from I got this art from an archive, right? So public domain archive. images from going back to like the 1500s. It's like, all right, well, this is just on a public domain archive. And I just mentioned, I got this from public domain. That's all. Just a very brief disclaimer. Pixie Bay is another one I've used, and I would just say from Pixie Bay, or sometimes you'll see things on Pinterest which aren't copyrighted. They're just there, and you just say, all right, I pulled this off of Pinterest, and that's it. If they state that it's copyrighted, then you contact the person and see how much it usually costs. It's usually a ridiculous amount, and you go look for a different image. Yeah, so it's I don't see it as a big deal. I'm waiting for my book to get here. I'm waiting. I have to start checking my emails to see. I think it's supposed to come in September or October. I hope sometime this month. I think some people have already gotten them, so it could arrive on my doorstep at any time. Yeah, don't the inclusion of old school characters like Alina. Yeah, she's just at the images, right? She's not actually statted out. So having images that are an homage is not the same thing as using those actual characters. Yes. COC is an awesome system. And I just got the box set of the second edition, and it's an awesome box set. I mean, I really can't wait to I definitely want to get a game rolling on that as well. Because that's the edition
I can't wait either.
Yeah.
Hopefully I'll get to play. Hopefully you'll be able to run on a night that I can play.
Yeah, I'm looking. I'm trying to find. I'm trying to find that second or possibly even third time frame when I can actually play without causing too much of a ruckus at home. Just her image.
I actually even made a character for my wife. I don't know. Mm-hmm. She's never played a pen and paper one before. She's played computer games with me before, but she's never played a pen and paper one. But I did make a character for her, so we'll see.
Yeah, cool. You could always invite her into one of our games. It'll be either CNC or possibly even AD&D. We'll see how that's still panning out and still going pretty strong. I'd say, and you're about to enter into, you're kind of into an official AD&D module. I won't say which one yet, but it's going to be so altered that you won't really recognize it.
Yeah, we started it. Yeah, we got into the town last week, right?
So, yeah. You're going to actually enter. The group is going to actually enter the temple.
Yeah. Next time, yeah.
Tuesday.
Yeah,
we'll see. Although I don't think Amalric is going to be there. Oh, that's going to suck. But yeah, Tuesday. Unless I asked him, I sent him an email.
I think he's off the grid next week.
I don't know if it was just the Tuesday or the whole week.
I think that his message implied that he was going to be off the grid the whole week.
Yeah, the whole week.
That was the idea.
We'll have to move forward.
Yeah. We have another mage now, so.
Yeah, we have extra mage, extra fighter. Yes, and I've heard some more positive things about 4E recently, Piedar, and the things I've heard is that if you make certain changes to it, it plays much better than its reputation would make you think. Um, you're not the minority in my mind. I don't think that anything. Well, certainly, I don't think anything, including Tasha's moving forward, is Dungeons and Dragons. Um, I consider it, to be so far removed from what Gary Gygax considered to be Dungeons and Dragons that it's not anymore. All right, so let's see what else we have here. Oh, that was my comment. Yeah, if you want to join in, you can just jump in on that link that I put up, and I'm getting messages on Facebook, but not related to this. So I don't consider 5e. Yeah, I can't directly link live streams to Facebook for like another 10 or so days because I'm under a semi-ban on Facebook. So okay. I heard someplace there's a Dragon Mini for like $1 that just came out. I got to look around and see what they're talking about. But supposedly there's some Dragon Mini out for $1. Now that's why Reziel, that's why Gary Gygax actually said that Castles and Crusades is the natural successor of AD&D First Edition. So he didn't even include Second Edition to be a true extension of First Edition. I never heard exactly why he made that statement, but I have a feeling it had to do with the that's when you started getting into just so many subclasses and sub races, and with all those splat books, and I guess features started coming in Second Edition. I played Second Edition very, very little. So I'm not an expert on Second Edition at all. Yeah, I personally did not become as antagonistic against WotC until Tasha's, basically. I think that, and once they threw that disclaimer on Drive-Through RPG, I was done with them. All right, let's see what else we have here. Yeah, but Warhammer was always a kind of remained more so a tabletop war game. And that's how originally when I saw Warhammer's Fantasy, I still read it that same way. I just saw it was so mini, so much of a miniatures game that you really couldn't play it without the miniatures, and so I never really got into it at that point. First of all, my family was not very well to do, and so the idea of having to buy a whole crap load of minis was something that was just not going to happen, and which is one of the reasons why I would have never picked up Second Edition AD&D at the time, because not only was my gaming group kind of moving off to college or going into the military or whatever, but I would have never had the money to buy all those splat books. At the time, the hobby would have kind of gotten out of my reach, It was much cheaper to buy a PlayStation RPG or or a computer RPG and just play the crap out of that at the time. So yeah, it was always a money issue with me as well. I think the real future for new people to break into selling products for the OSR is to either do a genre product or supplement of existing. We don't need more generic fantasy settings. Yeah, you have to do something that's kind of niche and kind of out there, I think. So I really like the stuff that like Miguel and Sylvia are putting out with the Red Room and all of their stuff. So they just came out with like a space thing. It was the Wretched Space that I definitely want to take a look at and see. They have a really interesting perspective because they're European creators, right? So they're in Portugal, and I think that you're getting, when you look at their stuff, you're getting that perspective put in, and so it just comes off like right away. It's just you just see a different aesthetic and you see a different tone than what you might be used to looking at role-playing games produced in the United States. So you're getting a very, very different feel when you're looking at those games. It's the same thing with it's the same thing with like Modifiers has that different feel to it as well, being a UK based game. Or if you look at Free League, I think it's Germany, so you get a different feel from there. Ganesha Games, which is like Four Against Darkness, was Italian and up until recently Ukrainian company, but it was Italian prior to that. The creator of it is Italian, so you have it has that European feel to it, and so it just comes off again very different feel is the best way I can describe it. And so that you get from the OSR. You're not going to get that anywhere else. I'm sure that role-playing games made in Asia, particularly like Japan or the Koreas or anything, it's going to have their feel to it. Brazil is another like mecca for South American RPGs and such. There's big communities of RPG playing in Brazil, and I'm sure that also has a different feel to it. That so yeah, I think it's really important for the OSR to not just tap into different genres that you normally don't see, and then that's absolutely true for the OSR, but the OSR can be much edgier than Wizards of the Coast or Paizo was ever going to be willing to be. I mean, Modifius is getting a little bit less edgier than they used to. They're kind of running a little bit towards that kind of mediocre kind of feel that you get, or mainstream feel, I should say, that you're getting with some of their content. I just say that because they, Modifius did hire a sensitivity reader for Conan in the last 2 volumes or whatever of Conan. So they started falling into that trap of concerning themselves what Twitter people might say, instead of just telling them to, fuck off and don't buy our game then, which is the only real good response to that kind of pushback on your product. So I know that was kind of long and spread out, but yeah, definitely the OSR should be the place that you look to just see more innovation and different ideas and different perspectives that you're not going to see from mainstream gaming companies. All right, let's see. Dave the GM. Hello, Dave the GM. Howdy, just popped in. I've been banging out a quick and dirty single session game on my typewriter. I've only had ink for this old manual typewriter for 2 days and already love it. All right, that's cool. So yeah, definitely going old school, using an old typewriter. I guess with the ribbon ink on it and stuff. With the, maybe I had one that would have the correction tape below that. I had an old Smith Corona that had that ability to do that, and then I upgraded that to one that actually had a disc that you could slip into it, and you could save up to 16 pages of written material on it, and that was a huge advancement for its time. I'm just looking for, so still talking about 40K. I think the new one's supposed to come out soon, within the next month or so. I hope, crossing fingers, that the 3rd edition is supposed to come out. No, she's just in a picture. Remember, she's in the Decado. She is in the secret adventure that is only gleaned from looking at the picture. So maybe there's the secret game mechanics in Spelljammer for ship-to-ship combat in the pictures, not in the writing, not in the box text, but in the pictures. That's where you get the secret adventure, and the secret game mechanics is just from looking at the pictures. Yeah, the Wanderer right out. Like I said, they do have the ribbons that have the white below it, where it would shift up, and you could correct back, and it would type backwards, if I remember, if you just hit the if you hit the fix button on the thing, and it would just, but it would only go back, like, I think you had to go back like full word, and so it kept the memory of like how many letters was in the last word, and so you could just go back and erase word by word by word. Well, that's pretty cool, Dave. Yep, that's how you learn to write, type. I never got past using 3 fingers typing. That's it. Could never do the ring finger and the pinky on anything. And geez, at the time, maybe I was like 80 words a minute, maybe 80, 90 words a minute, something like that. So never really fast. Okay, let's see. Let's see who is pretty salty. Let's see. I'm not sure who Rogue Scholar is referring to as being pretty salty. Yeah, talk about Sylvia. Well, Sylvia is definitely, I wouldn't say salty. She's definitely she's unafraid. She will definitely come out there and and push back hard on on any kind of attack on them. Yes, that's a sign that your game company is on its decline. Is once you start worrying about hiring sensitivity readers, you're pretty much done. Start packing up because your products are going to be on a steady decline because you're going to be unafraid. I mean, you're going to be afraid to work outside the box. Your innovation is going to stagnate or disappear completely. Your edginess is going to be gone. You'll just be too afraid to continue, pushing forward, and and your highest quality writers are going to leave because they're going to see that their freedom to create is going to be inhibited by you then bringing in, after you've done everything, a sensitivity reader to then decide, all right, well, you need to change this, you need to change that. That is absolutely what drove the two primary writers for Modifius's Conan second edition out of the company. As soon as they started saying you need to remove martial arts, mysticism, or exotic from the text, they were like, all right, we're done. We're out of here. And the only reason why they couldn't remove it from every place is because if Robert E. Howard actually used those terms in the writing that they were producing for like the lore or anything like that, they weren't allowed to, by contract, to change anything Robert E. Howard actually wrote. But anything that Modifius created, so any of the game rules or such that use that's where it would disappear. So you would see mysticism in a lore section, but you wouldn't see mysticism or exotic in, let's say, a spell or a poison description or something along those lines. So, but yeah, hiring sensitivity readers is a sure sign that your company is going to be in a creative tunnel, let's put it that way, where you no longer have that flexibility to move outside of that track that you're putting you into. All right, let's see if we have any new people that came in and see. Let's see. Yes, Sylvia is the Red Room gal. The Red Room gal. Yes. Pro Sylvia. Yeah, and I mean, Miguel is really, really a nice guy, and to talk to him and the way that he, his view of tabletop role playing games is really, an interesting view. Spoken to him for hours. I've interviewed him. He's interviewed me. So I have his interview on my channel. He and Sylvia had interviewed me about a year ago as well, and just the conversation. Like I said, it was just hearing from a Portuguese perspective, and how they see things differently from me was really eye-opening, and it was really interesting. So I have a great deal of encouragement that that where they're going, and plus they churn out so much material so quickly, and it's still like really high quality stuff that that's another thing. Now I'm sure they had a huge backlog before they started publishing, so they waited till they had a lot before they started publishing stuff, but their stuff is really, really cool. Like you probably see behind me, I have Osric, and Osric is a good resource to have, but I mean, if I were going to create anything as a base for like a homebrew campaign, I would still use the AD&D books, the hardcovers, rather than Osric, even though Osric puts everything in one tomb. Osric I just use like a reference. So if you don't have the AD&D first edition books, then Osric is fine to use. But if you do, I think you'd be better off using that.
I mean, Osric is a very true to the original first edition. So if you've got the first edition book, it's really not that much different in Osric, unless you just want to carry one copy to the table, and that's it.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's a good resource for just looking up stuff really fast, or in just one volume. But I think you're going to get a better feel out of using the original hardcovers, for developing a homebrew campaign than you will using the little Osric book. I mean, that's just my take on it. You have a good night, Cal. Good to see you again. Yeah, we're around the 2-hour mark. Yes, use like Hyperborea is cool too. So using that system and that connection too. One thing I really like doing with D&D campaigns, I've done it a few times, is I love the gods from Robert E. Howard's Hyperborean Age. I really love Robert E. Howard's gods, more so than even the D&D gods from Deities and Demigods or Legends and Lore, or from the Greyhawk setting box or anything. I just love Hyborian Age gods. I think that I like the fact that they're all much more severe, I guess, if you want to put, but not as directly involved. So like it's not like they're going to directly intervene in anything, but worshiping them, the peoples that worship these various gods are really going to buy into their they're going to have that religious fervor of whatever that deity is. You know what I'm saying? So your priests of Mitra are going to be running around and curing people left and right and just trying to do good deeds. And your worshippers of Set are going to be looking to, slit throats and poison people and just, cause all kinds of chaos and such. So it's or build death cults around Set and everything. There's, I just like those gods in comparison to, like I said, like Greyhawk deities. You don't have anything that's that. You don't get that same sense of, their followers are going to be that devout. Oh, you're welcome, Raziel. Hope all that helped. All right. I am starting to lose my voice. So, well, once again, thanks everyone for popping in. And I'm going to start looking to wrap this up And as always, great to have all these people coming on in and talking about various things of the OSR tabletop. Plus, like I said, if we do bring up Wizards of the Coast, it's usually to try to see how it is going to impact or not impact at all the OSR. And so like to see those trends and see what's going on there, that we can look to the OSR to be a better solution. That's always my my hopeful best response to anything that I see that's trending in the hobby in general. Is, well, how can we look to the OSR and find a better way of doing it? Find a better game to do what you're looking to do in D&D, let's say, or some other game. I'm a firm believer in using the right tool for the right job. So I don't look to take game systems outside of the settings that they were created for, or look to take game systems and move them into other genres that they weren't necessarily designed for. So, and that's the kind of thing that the OSR really does provide. Is you can find a game for every genre, or for every tone that you're looking for, or for every time period, even within a genre that you're looking for, whether it be like Call of Cthulhu 1920s, or Twilight 2000s, the 1980s alternate, alternate European theater, or I'm sure that there's others that are, well, Gangbusters is also 1920s, 1930s, and so on and so forth. You have your Western, been seeing a lot of weird Western RPGs coming out lately too. So that might be an interesting subgenre to start taking a look at. I currently don't have any of those Weird West RPGs, so maybe that's something I'll take a look at. And I'm pretty sure the Red Room has a Weird West RPG. It's slipping my mind what it's actually called. It's using their Wretched system, so maybe that's something I will grab and talk about on the channel as well. So as always, great to see everybody. Thanks for popping in. If you have any questions or comments, the video will actually be fully uploaded, and then you could leave comments in there once it's done uploading, and then I'll be able to take a look at it and directly be able to respond on the video after it's done uploading, and I will be able to look back at the live chat and see if there's anything else I need to address afterwards. And I should be throwing up another video probably by Monday. Again, hopefully Luftwaffe. Hopefully I could get back into the rules and figure it out to do like a really quick play test of a scenario. So this is upcoming, probably Monday. That's what I'm planning on. And then sometime later on in the week, I'll do a video with Monsters and Treasure for Castles and Crusades. Probably only do like one, maybe two videos going over that. And then I'm going to move to the Castle Keeper's Guide for Castles and Crusades, do a few videos on that. And that will probably be like the next 2 weeks worth of videos on my channel. And after this is done, if you pop into Unscripted and Unchained RPG Review, that is my YouTube channel. Feel free to subscribe, hit the alerts, leave comments, and share videos out there. Let's keep this channel growing. I really appreciate everybody that's been coming on, and for those of you that are leaving comments, thank you for giving me suggestions and such. If I will leave off on this thing, if I am going to delve into shorts, what kind of short videos do you, and I'm not talking about clothing shorts, what kind of short videos do you think I should focus on for the OSR Tabletop. So that's that's something I was thinking of doing OSR cover art and just going over the various, and just do little quick videos and just showing off various cover art. So that's my idea of doing it. Let me know if you'd find that interesting for me to go through this, huge collection behind me and just do a little quick blurb on cover art of the OSR. I think that's the one idea that I was thinking of doing it. But if you have a better idea, want me to go in a different direction with shorts, then just let me know. Thanks a lot for joining. Have a great night, everybody. Have a great rest of your weekend. It's Labor Day weekend. So many of you, if you're in the States, you're probably enjoying a nice 3-day weekend. So, have that great last barbecue of the season, generally speaking, and stay safe out there. And I look forward to seeing you on the gaming screen. I can't talk anymore. Look forward to seeing you on the gaming screen sometime soon. Take care, everyone.
Good night. See you next week.
Yep. Have a good night, Mirador. See you Tuesday.
Yep.